welcome everybody. Ready to go again. So a little routine on the mat, and then if you want to follow with a little bit of a standing work, just grab the next video and there will be a little bit of a standing workout going through that you can link together whichever way around works best for you. So starting off lying down on the back, using the mat to help realign the spine. The back of the head is resting on the mat. The back of the shoulders and the back of the hips are too. I'm going to extend the legs away if I feel comfortable. Nothing is pulling on the lower back, nothing is creating pressure into the lower back or the hips. I'm going to bend the knees if I find that feels quite uncomfortable, or that feels more comfortable, that feels better. The arms are relaxing down the side, encouraging the palms to turn face up and towards the ceiling, the shoulders to roll out to the front of the chest to open up and relax. And then noticing where the breath is at the moment. In the majority of the people, we tend to breathe with the top of the chest, so that rush the breath, that almost a panic breath. See if you can try and calm the breath down, softening the throat, relaxing the jaw, relaxing the chest, encouraging the breath to come down into the belly. So feeling the belly rising with the inhale and then falling with the exhale. So encouraging the diaphragm to move inside of the rib cage and then create that breath as it should be. So not your intercostal muscles, not your neck muscles, not your chest muscles. As you feel the breath is a little bit more relaxed, the body feels a little bit more settled, and then focusing on the shoulders, focusing on the arms. I'm going to raise the both arms straight up and towards the ceiling, locking the arms nice and straight in front of me. Think of the back of the arm, your tricep, working actively to extend the elbow joint. So two strong, long arms. I'm going to start taking them back. See if you can be aware of the position of your shoulders as the arms go back. I don't want my shoulders to come up to my head, to come up to my ears. I don't want my neck to pull the arms. I just want the arm to move into the shoulder socket. Notice the back of the chest, the front of the chest, the front of the rib cage. If my rib cage is lifting up, my back is arching. It's not actually my arm that is moving back. It's my back that is arching, that is taking it back. So see if I can encourage the ribs to soften, just making sure that they're not flaring, they're not sticking out, they're not pulling out. Noticing if the arms are still holding strong or holding straight, or the elbows have started bending, the arms have started sagging a bit. See if I can keep them active, see if I can keep them working. And then no matter how close to the ground I can get them, I'm not going to let them touch the floor. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and easing back. Returning the arms down by the side. Just a little bit more movement through the shoulder. I'm going to see if I can make it a little bit stronger this time. So raising the arms up, I'm going to interlock the fingers, turn the palms to face up and towards the ceiling. I'm going to try and push the palms as high up as I can, so trying to open up into the palm of the hands, or trying to open up around the front of the wrists, down the forearm. I might be able to straighten up the arms, I might not be able to go fully extended. It doesn't matter, I'm trying, just making sure that I'm not forcing the wrist and creating pain and discomfort into the wrist as I'm driving up. So I'm trying to squeeze the elbows as close together as possible. And then I'm just going to ease back. And then again I'm going to squeeze them as close together as possible. And then I'm going to ease back. I can clearly see the arms, so I can see if one is extending more than the other. See if I can try and create a nice even movement to right and left side. I'm going to try one more time. I'm going to straighten up the arms as much as you can. And then holding the arms in that position. If they're straight, to keep them straight. If they're bent, keep them bent. Don't let them bend any further. Start taking them back. So keep squeezing the elbows in. Still working harder through the arms. And the triceps are still active. The forearm still stretching. The palm of the hand still stretching through. Same as you did with the hands apart, just making sure that the shoulders are not suddenly shrugging up to your head, coming up to your ears. The chest is not suddenly lifting up and towards the ceiling. The back is not arching. So see if I can find the movement in the shoulder, not somewhere else. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and easing back. Returning the arms, releasing the wrists, relaxing the arms. So a little bit more movement into the shoulders. I'm going to try and work it into the hips. Extending that left leg away along the floor. I'm going to actively press that leg into the ground. So flexing the foot, pushing the back of the calf, back of the knee, back of the thigh down into the mat. I'm going to lift the right leg up and then hooking the hands behind that right thigh. I don't want the leg to drop any further than this. So I don't want the leg to come down that way. I want to stay up here. I'm going to work it through the front of the thighs, actively extending into the leg, into the knee, straightening up the leg as much as I can, flexing the foot as deep as possible, as if I was trying to stand with the heel of the foot directly above the hip. I might be able to straighten it if my hamstrings are tight, the knee might still be bent. It doesn't matter as far as I'm trying to extend it through. Then I'm going to relax the foot, bend the knee, drop the shin, and then try again. Grounding that left leg, extending the right to see if I can go a little bit straighter, see if I can go a little bit further. And then I'm going to ease the foot, bend the knee, returning the leg. Especially if the knee is slightly bent, check that when you're extending the leg is not twisted to the side. So if I look at my leg, the leg is all lined up. The toes, the knee, the hip all along the same line. It's not twisted. So I'm not twisting at the hip, I'm not twisting at the knee. I'm going to return the shin, return the foot down. I'm going to try one more time. I'm going to extend the leg as much as I can, pressing down with the left, extending and lengthening through with the right. Flexing the foot as deep as they'll go. And then maintaining the two legs locked to solid, one against the ground, one up to the ceiling. If you can, letting go with the hands, holding the right leg there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing back, releasing the leg, releasing the hip, the thigh. I'm going to try the same thing on the left side. So curling that left leg up into the chest, I'm going to actively press down into the right leg. So flexing the foot, pushing the back of the calf, back of the knee, back of the thigh to the ground. Hooking the hands behind that left thigh, and then I'm going to try and extend the leg away. Straightening up the leg as much as I can on this side, flexing the foot as deep as it'll go. And then I'm going to ease the foot, bend the knee, allowing the shin to drop, and then again, pressing down with the right, actively driving that right into the floor, lifting that left up and towards the ceiling. And then noticing the difference. I feel that this leg is easier to extend, it's harder to extend, it's whatever it is. One side will always be slightly different from the other. I'm not forcing, I'm just waiting for this leg to get used to the movement. When it does, then I can go deeper, I can go further. I'm going to try one more time, extending that left leg as much as I can. Pressing down with the right, flexing the foot, letting go with the hands if you can, holding the leg there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and ease it back. Releasing the leg, releasing the hip, a little bit more activation into the front of the legs, the front of the hips. I'm going to try and reverse the effort, trying to take into the back of the hips. So bending the knees, walking the feet up and towards you. The feet in line with your seat bones, close to the seat bones. They don't need to be touching the seat bones, especially if you find that puts quite a lot of pressure on the knees. So it's comfortable distance, I can always adjust. I'm going to press down through the arms, and then push down through the soles of the feet. I'm going to send the hips up and towards the ceiling. I want the thighs to become level to the floor. So I'm going to drive them up as high as I can, trying to open up into the front of the hips. So using the back of the bum and the back of the legs to create that lift, making sure that I'm not pushing backwards, so all the pressure is not going into my head, into my neck. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and easing back. Hugging the knees to the chest, rocking the legs forward and back a few times, making sure that the back doesn't feel stiff, doesn't feel tight. I'm going to try again. If I felt that was quite comfortable, then I'm going to try and see if I can go a little bit deeper into the pose. If I felt that was plenty enough, then I'm just going to go back and then stay there, hold it there. So walking the feet back into the same position as they were before. I'm going to push down through the arms, driving up into the hips, sending the hips, the thighs up and towards the ceiling. With the hands reaching behind the back, behind the hips, behind the bum. I'm going to try and encourage the hips to come up a little bit higher. So see if I can try and wedge the arms underneath the hips and then offer a little bit more support there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release it back. Hugging the knees to the chest. Again, rocking the legs forward and back a few times, releasing the hips, relaxing the legs. I want a little bit more opening going across the front of the chest and into the shoulders. So dropping the feet back down, rolling over onto the side, and then in your own time, pushing yourself up into sitting. I'm going to sit on a slight raise, so you can kneel if you feel comfortable kneeling, or you can just use a block or a towel to bring yourself up slightly higher, so I can sit comfortably upright and I've got a little bit more space behind me. I'm going to reach the hands behind, clasping the hands together if you can, resting the hands on the base of the spine if you feel that you're quite tight. As soon as you put the arms behind, the shoulder tend to roll forward. So what I want is for the shoulder to stay back. So I want to create that tension at the front of the chest. So I'm going to roll the shoulders back. I'm going to squeeze the shoulder blades together. And then reaching with the hands to the ground, making sure that I'm not letting the hands touch the body. So see if I can keep them away from the body. But at the same time, making sure that I'm not letting the shoulder roll forward. So the shoulders go back and the arms are lengthened away, keeping the hands away from the body, trying to keep the arms and the shoulders active. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing back. If you felt that the chest was quite tight, so it didn't feel that comfortable to create that opening through the arms, then this time I'm going to use a strap to help me. Towel, anything, something that doesn't have any give, so it's not going to stretch out, or something that is going to stay sturdy. I'm going to flick the band behind me, so that instead of having my hands together, this time I can give a little space between the hands. So I now find that it's a lot easier to roll the shoulders, it's a lot easier to straighten up the arms, and it's a lot easier to lift them up. So if you needed to use the band to give you that little extra space so that you encourage that nice opening through. If you're happy keeping the hands together, then I'm going to keep the hands together. I'm going to retract the shoulders, squeezing the shoulder blades together, locking the arms nice and straight, nice and long, and then this time I'm going to try and lift the arms as far away from the body as I possibly can. So I'm going to try and push them backwards. 5, making sure that the head doesn't start dropping forward, making sure that the shoulders don't start flopping forward. 4, 3, 2, and back. Releasing the shoulders, relaxing the back. I've got the nice strong opening, and I've got that kind of like a feedback where the arms are supposed to be. I'm going to try and see if I can use that same position but going up into the preparation to the whirl. So lowering yourself all the way down onto the back. If you were using the strap, put the strap behind your hips underneath the back. So same as before, I can hold onto the strap. So I'm going to walk the feet nice and close together. If I'm holding onto the strap, I'm just going to grab a hold of the strap a similar distance to what I had when I was sitting down. If I was holding onto the hands, I'm going to clasp the hands together. And then exactly the same as you did from your seated position. I'm going to try and climb the shoulders behind the rib cage. Then from there, exactly the same as I did in the seated position, I'm going to drive the hips up and towards the ceiling, pushing the arms down and towards the ground. 5, looking straight ahead of you, don't turn the head. 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing back, climbing the shoulders back out, releasing the arms, hugging the knees to the chest, the stretching the lower back, releasing, and the hips are releasing the back. So it's a little bit more activation through the back of the body as well. It's a little bit more space at the front of the body. I'm going to change the load. I'm going to take myself up into sitting. So rolling over onto the side in your own time, pushing yourself up into sitting. Moving the equipment out of the way, setting up into your Dandasana, setting up into your staff pose, finding the seat bones, planting the seat bones down onto the mat. Same as I did cross-legged before. If I felt that my hips are quite tight or my hamstrings are quite tight, so I can't straighten upper back and legs at the same time, I find myself rolling backwards or having to bend the knees, then I'm going to give myself a little raise. I'm just going to give myself a little bit more space so that I can get into that 90-degree angle at the hip joint. Once that you're happy that you've got that seated position, actively working through both legs. So I'm going to flex the feet, pulling the toes up and towards me, hands are down by the side of the hips, or fingertips if I'm on the block, and then encouraging the lower back to lift up. So I'm going to try and roll forward into the front of the hips and then pushing down through the arms, locking the arms nice and straight by your side. See if you can again feel that nice tension coming down through the tricep into the arms, encouraging the body to lift. With the head, I'm going to try and reach up, lengthening through the neck. With the shoulders, I'm pressing down and away from the head. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing back, relaxing the legs, releasing the hips. I want a little bit more activation to the front, so I'm going to try and make the front of the hip and the belly work a little bit harder. If you're sitting on the block, pushing the block out of the way, off to the side, and then I'm going to focus on one leg at a time. I'm going to reach the hands a little bit further forward than the knees. So think of, I don't know, mid-shin. The closer to the feet they get, the harder it becomes. So I'm going to stay close to the knee, but past the knee joint. I'm going to put my fingertips on the floor, and then same as I did lying down, I'm going to try and pull up through the front of the thigh. So feeling the knee extending, I want the leg to lift away. So I'm going to pull up through the thigh, pull up through the hip. I want the right leg to come up. The tendency will be to pull the arms back and then backwards so that I can easily lift up by counterbalance. I want the body to stay forward. I want the hip, the belly and the leg to have to work. 3, 2, 1, and releasing back, relaxing the hip, releasing the thigh. I'm going to try exactly the same thing on the left side. It's exactly the same as before. I'm going to set the hands just a little bit further forward in the knees. Keep forward into the legs, pulling up through the front of that left thigh, and then see if I can get that left leg to come away from the floor. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing down, releasing the hip, releasing the leg. So I know how much I can do. I feel that the legs is very heavy, so I'm struggling to get it to stay up. Stay with a single leg. If I felt that that was quite easy, quite manageable, then I'm going to try and see if I can get both legs that are lifted this time. So I'm going to reset my position same as before, pulling up through the front of the thighs, and then this time lifting just the right leg, or if you can, trying to lift them both. No leaning backwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing down. Releasing the hips, releasing the belly. I'm going to try one more time. If I was doing single leg, this time will be my left leg. If I was doing double, I'm going to try and pull the double again. So that stronger connection all the way through the hips into the abdomen. I'm going to set the fingertips down onto the ground, leaning forward into the legs slightly, and then pulling up from the left, lifting the left, or pulling up with both, lifting both. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing back. Releasing the hips. This is a little bit more activation through the thighs. It's a little bit more connection also into the front of the belly. I'm going to try and get the upper body a little bit more involved, and trying to see if I can get the arms to work a little bit harder this time. So setting the legs in front of you, sitting on the floor. I'm going to place the hands down by the side of the hips, and then I want a little extra raise to allow me a little play. So I'm going to come up onto an open fist. So I'm going to drive my fist down into the ground. If you've got long nails, don't dig them into the palm. See if you can stay on onto an open fist. If you prefer, you can come up onto your fingertips. So entirely up to you. So I'm going to set the hands by the side of the hips, and then this time I want a strong activation coming from the arms. So as I push down into the arms, I want my hips to hover above the floor. The tendency is to start doing that kind of thing. So I'm lifting with the legs. See if you can try and think of lifting through the arms. So I want is the tricep to connect, and then create that little lift up. So the bum is not touching the ground, is hovering above the ground. So choosing the position that suits you better, coming up onto your fingers or coming up onto the fist, driving through the arms, trying to let the hips of the seat bones hover above the mat. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and easing back. Releasing the arms. Now the same intensity that you felt on the arm and you felt on the leg when you were trying to lift the leg up, I want you to try and bring it together back into your Dandasana. So setting the block under the hips if you need the block there. I'm going to set the arms down by the side of the hips, actively pulling through the legs, flexing the feet, pulling the toes up and towards you, so if you can create that strong tension. Easy this time as I'm not trying to lift the legs off the ground. Now pushing down through the arms to see if I can create that lift into the back. Easier again as I'm not trying to lift my bum off the floor. To see if I can find a better connection through the legs and then through the back of the arms. 3, 2, 1, and releasing back. Releasing the hips, releasing the legs. Again, it's a little bit more connection through the front into the arms. I'm going to reverse the effort to see if I can try and bring it into the back again. So taking the legs around to the side, coming up and around until you're down on your front, setting up into locust. I'm going to focus on the legs first, then I'm going to do the upper body, and then again I'm going to try and bring them together. So lying down on your front, setting the arms wherever you want, under the head, by the side of the hips, whichever feels more comfortable. Feet and knees are about to hips width apart, so not too wide, and then I'm not trying to keep them together. I'm going to turn the head so that my head is looking down at the floor, looking down at the mat, and then reaching back into the legs as if you can start lifting the legs off the ground. But think of a stronger tension coming from the back of the hips or the back of the bum, pulling at the legs and trying to lift them up. The tendency if the glutes are weak is to start bending the knees, so I'm using my hamstrings. See if you can think of the legs are staying straight, the tension coming from higher up into the hips. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and easing back. Giving the hips a little shake, relaxing the hips, releasing the legs. And then this time I'm going to bring the focus to the upper body instead. So taking the arms down to the side, think of about a 45-degree angle between your arm and the body. So I'm about there. So not there, not there, there. The palms are turned to face down. I'm going to reach the arms back, letting the hands hover above the floor slightly. And then think of your shoulders rolling backwards and then pulling downwards. Let the arms drag you off the ground. I'm going to lift my head and the top of the chest, and then I'm going to keep lifting as far up as my back will allow me to go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And releasing down, relaxing the arms down by the side, turning the head to look over one shoulder, allowing the shoulders and the back to relax. I'm going to try and put the two together. So I want the all of the body to lift. The only thing that will stay down is the belly and the hips. So everything else I'm going to try and pull it away. So setting the arms are just a little bit wider than hips width apart. Again, the 45-degree angle. I'm going to reach long into the legs, reach long into the arms, and then I'm going to start pulling back from the arms, lifting the shoulders and the head. Picking up the legs at the back. I'm going to keep lifting and lifting and lifting and lifting and lifting and lifting as far up as I can. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release and down. Giving the shoulders, giving the hips a gentle roll, and then pushing up onto hands and knees. Stretching up into cat, sending the ribcage up and towards the ceiling, rounding the upper back, rounding the lower back, scooping the belly in, encouraging a little bit more lift into the lower back, and then I'm just going to drop down. Reversing it if you want, and then lifting into your cat again. 2, and dropping back. 3, 4, 5, and releasing back. So I've got a little bit more activation front and back of the body, so a little bit more space as well. I'm going to try and see if I can work them all together. So taking the legs around to the front, coming down into sitting, making sure that there is nothing behind you, not too close to the wall. So just in case if I lose my balance, I'm not going to bang my head. There is no blocks and no bands, nothing behind me. I'm going to find the seat bends, and then lifting up onto the seat bends, I'm going to tag the hands behind the legs, and then little tag to the feet. I want the feet to lift away from the ground, so I'm going to try and find my balance here first. See if you can maintain the lift into the back, so the front of the body and the back of the body are working together to create that lift, to create that length through the back. I'm happy here, I feel comfortable here, I'm just going to stay here. If I feel that I can, I'm going to load a little bit more. So I'm going to start raising the shins up a little bit higher, bring them level to the floor. If I find that still feels quite comfortable, then I might want to get the legs a little bit higher, extending them away if I can. Just to try and as much as you can to keep that sharper V shape, making sure that my V is not opening out, so I'm not opening away from the legs, I'm trying to stay close to the legs. So I'm going to find the position that works for me, and then I'm just going to hold with the hands to begin with. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing back. Dropping the feet down, coming forward into the legs, a little rest for the belly, the hips and the back. I'm going to try again. So I know which position works for my legs. I'm going to try that again, but this time I'm going to try and rely on the arms less. So I'm going to try and see if I can let go with the arms. So tucking the hands to the back of the legs, giving the little tag to the feet to see if you can find the balance. Staying here, raising the shins a little bit higher if you can, staying here, extending the legs all the way if you can, staying there. And then if you can, gradually letting go with the arms, reaching them forward, stretching them long. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And releasing back. Coming forward into the legs, allowing the belly, the hips, the back of the legs to relax. We're going to try one more time. So I know which option works the best for my legs, and then I know if I can or can't let go with the arms. I might be able to let go for a bit, and then I'll have to hold the legs again. I'm just doing whatever feels more comfortable. So I'm going to tuck the hands behind the legs, give a little tug to see if I can find my balance. Staying here, raising the shins, extending the legs, or whatever you want. And then see if you can let go with the arms. Reach them long, stretch them far. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And releasing back. Coming forward into the legs, allowing the belly and the hips to have a little rest. And then I'm going to reverse the opening last time. Taking the legs around to the side, coming up and around until you're up on all fours. I'm going to step forward on the left foot, and then I'm going to kneel up on the right side. If you find that the floor is a bit too hard, this is like I've got sprung floorboards, you might want to double the mat, so making sure that there is not so much pressure going into the knee. I'm going to make sure that I've got my balance first of all, and then I'm going to gradually start shuffling that left foot forward as far forward as I can reach. So what I want is for the right hip to open up. With the back of the bum, I'm squeezing the hips forward to see if I can drop them down into the ground. Making sure that you're not sagging from the back, so I'm not hanging in there. I'm trying to stay active here. I'm going to keep there. If I can make it a little bit stronger, then tucking the toes under on the right foot, and then trying to keep the hips where they are at the moment to see if you can actively start pulling from that right thigh. To see if I can start extending the right knee behind without letting my bum shoot up in the air. And then if I feel that I've still got my balance here, I can do a little bit more. I'm going to let go with the arms, the 2 long straight lines running in front of me. If I can make it stronger, I'm going to take them all the way up, opening up into movement. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and easing back. Taking both legs behind, pushing back into child. Big toes come together, knees open up a little bit wider, allowing yourself to sit back and relax. The hips are to reset, the front of the hips are to close, the back and the shoulders to relax. And then I'm going to repeat exactly the same thing on the other side on the other leg. So pushing yourself back up onto hands and knees. This time the left knee stays down, the right foot steps forward. I'm going to come up and making sure that I've got my balance. I'm going to start shuffling that right foot forward, See if I can encourage that opening into that front of that left hip. Squeezing actively with the back of the bum to try and push the hips forward, push the hips down. I'm up here, I'm going to stay here. If I can go further, tucking the toes under on the left foot, and then making sure that the hips don't go up, I'm going to try and pull the knee away. Actively pulling through the front of the thigh. Again, I'm happy here. I'm going to let go with the arms, reach them forward, and then if the balance is still there, extending them up and towards the ceiling. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing back. Taking both legs back. Big toes come together, knees open up a little bit wider, pushing back into child. Allowing the back to reset, the hips to relax. And then when you're ready to release, curling all the way back. Taking the legs around to the side, bring them to the front. I'm going to lower myself all the way down until resting on the back. Opening the arms out nice and wide, turning the palms to face up and towards the ceiling, and then shuffling the feet and the knees nice and close together. I'm going to gently start rolling the hips from one side to the other. Imagine it possible to be keeping your rib cage down where it is, and then turning just your hips to face the side of the room. So see if I can make sure that the legs are moving together, the feet are staying together, the knees are staying together. One leg is not sliding over the other. If you try, if I let my right leg slides over the left, then it's just like the legs are flopping to the side, but the back is not actually moving. If I keep my right leg on top of the left, then my hips are suddenly going much further. The movement feels a little bit more of a rotation, a little bit more of a twist. 3, 2, 1, and easing back. Returning the legs back to the middle, extending the legs away. Letting the feet flop out, hips and knees nice and loose. Bring the arms down by the side, turning the palms to face up and towards the ceiling. Letting the shoulders and the arms roll out, flop out and relax. Same as you did at the beginning. If you feel that with the legs straight the back doesn't feel right, then bending the knees. Give yourself a couple of breaths there. And then if you need to stay there for longer, please do so. If you're going to move on onto the standing routine, take your pick. There's lots of videos there. I hope you enjoy the next one. Namaste. Thank you very much.